Novak Djokovic is the best tennis player in history, and he didn't get there by being the most talented. Federer had arguably more raw talent, and Nadal had more raw physical force. Djokovic became the GOAT because he decided to do something most never try: rewire his brain from the inside out. And he didn't do it by reading books or downloading apps or building habits hoping they'd stick. No, he did it systematically, one bottleneck at a time, always solving the most important thing first. Every meditation, every visualization, every breathing protocol, all of them had been guided by one question: is this the single most important thing I can be doing right now to rewire myself? And the answer for most of his career was the same, that the one that is holding you back. He had a belief he couldn't see and was preventing him from moving to the next level. And this video will show you how this happened to him and what he did, and how can you apply it to get better yourself. Because you probably heard about everything that Djokovic does: meditation, visualization, breath work. You probably have tried some of them, and if you're honest, they didn't change much. And here's why. Meditation is a way of training your attention, so you can teach your brain to observe thoughts without being controlled by them. And visualization is a way of aligning your conscious and your subconscious so you can install the identity who you want to become. And breathwork is a fantastic way of resetting your nervous system so you interrupt your stress response. And all of them work. All of them is true, but every single one of them need a prerequisite. They can only work if there's subconscious block that had been released. If you try to meditate on top of a limiting belief, it's not going to work. If you try to visualize something your subconscious doesn't believe belongs to you, it won't work. If you try to breath your way out of a threat response created by a limiting belief, it's just extra hard. You will be building on a cracked foundation. And so was Djokovic. But in 2011, he realized this and did something about it. And this is what happens in your brain when you know you need to do something and you don't do it. It's not a discipline problem, it's a subconscious programming problem. Your conscious mind can think and plan your way into it, but then you don't do it because your subconscious is running a totally different program underneath. One built over years from childhood, from failures, from identity that you once protected you and now doesn't. And when there's any conflict between conscious and subconscious, you literally sabotage yourself. There's friction at the brain level that shows up as procrastination, distraction, overthinking, avoidance. And that looks like weakness, but is not. It's just how brain works until you rewire them. And this is exactly what Djokovic identified in himself. In his own words, physically, I couldn't compete. Mentally, I didn't feel I belonged on the same court as the best players in the game. He knew how to play tennis. He consciously knew what to do on the court. He'd been training his whole life, but there was a ceiling. And that ceiling was not in his technique. It was in his mind. And the turning point was not a new coach. It wasn't a new training breakthrough. It wasn't a new nutrition plan. And before I tell you what it was, here's something you don't know about Djokovic. He is constantly seeking the best help. He's constantly tracking every variable, every physiological data, every match statistics. He's one of the most tracked person in a sports world. He even tracks his mental performance losses. His coach, Marian Vajda, he doesn't just watch his technique, he literally maps Novak's psychology game after game. But all of this started working once they identify a specific belief that was holding back. And it all happened in one match. At the end of 2010, Djokovic led Serbia to its first ever Davis Cup title. To win it, they had to beat Switzerland, Federer's team, and Spain, Nadal's team. Djokovic bet both, and something cracked open. For the first time, he had proof, not motivation or affirmation, not a vision board, actual proof that he belonged in the same court as those guys. His brain couldn't argue with that reality anymore because he had won. He had cracked that limiting belief. And as soon as this happened, everything changed because meditation started working differently. Visualization landed, breathwork compounded, and every protocol layered on top of that solid ground actually thrived. And 20 years later, he's 24 Grand Slam in, the most in history. And he didn't do it because he became suddenly more talented. No, it's because he removed all the subconscious friction that was preventing him from capitalizing on his talent and skill. And he just decided to build systematically on top of that. And I work with founders every day who are sitting exactly in the same position Djokovic was in 2010. They're capable, they're smart, they're knowledgeable, they know exactly what to do, and they're stuck. And it always follows the same pattern. There's always one task that they know they need to do, they don't do it. I remember a client the other day, he knew he needed to do Loom outreach. 100 prospect. Simple. He hadn't done a single one in 3 months. And not because he didn't have the perfect blueprint. He bought 2 courses on outreach. And he wasn't lazy. He was constantly delivering for his clients. It was because he had the subconscious belief that outreach was beneath him. He had bought into this idea that he had the best clients and product and therefore clients and therefore retention in the game, and that referrals were a sign of craftsmanship. So he didn't do outreach. He thought that just by doing excellent work, the business will grow. Noble belief, but terrible strategy. And at some point, the referrals stopped working and stopped coming in as frequently. So he needed to start doing outreach. And what we did is engineering his David Cobb moment. And we did 2 things in this exact order. First, we mapped the system systematically, step by step. The specific things he needed to do one by one to land a client through Loom outreach. And when the path is that clear, the energy required to start is almost zero. And then second, we audit his subconscious belief and patterns related to that system. Any program that he might have regarding the system, every subconscious belief that this is beneath me, this is not gonna work, people are not gonna care, I'm just not good enough, all that mental BS that was in his head. And within a week, he'd sent 100 looms. Within a month, he was at 40K plus revenue. And that's why performance is so important, because it literally sets the ceiling of your revenue. And what is most interesting is we're tracking both layers at the same time. The outer layer, which was obviously revenue, and the inner layer, how quickly could he catch a belief when it resurfaced and let it go, and his positive thoughts changing in real time, how much friction he had in every session, how well did his Loom outreach correlate with his sleep data, with his nutrition data, with his exercise, and all of those things. And he could see his pipeline growing, his revenue growing as he was dialing his performance. And when those 2 tracks move together, you obviously make more money. And we know because we have built a system that literally does this. It basically predicts how much money it's going to make based on what we call the execution score. The quality of your execution, how much focus can you bring on high leverage tasks. It's always like this. You can be the smartest, most talented person in your specific industry, but if there's any subconscious hijack, you're gonna be forever stuck. And this is what Djokovic understood back in 2010, that he had that belief that needed to be broken. As soon as he broke it, he systematically leveled up one layer at a time. But it only happened because he found the single most important leverage point for his career, a subconscious belief that had been unaddressed. So if you are currently stuck, you must understand that the hustle, grinding, praying, hoping, more marketing, more sales, more system, they're not going to solve anything. The only thing that is going to solve it is you learning how to align what you need to do with what you want to do, the conscious mind with the subconscious mind. And that is at the core of performance optimization. That is what we do at Selfmastered. This is what I do with my own performance. And this is how Djokovic went from number 3 to the greatest of all time. So if you truly want to be the greatest of all time in your industry, you need to do this work. And if you want a proven protocol, if you are at 6 figures on average, multiply revenue by 2.4 and we guarantee 2x, book a call below. Because the gap between who you need to be and who you are is not a knowledge gap, is not a strategy gap, it's an execution gap. And it's rooted on a misalignment between conscious and subconscious. And it's closable, trainable, systematically, one bottleneck at a time. See you on the call.